Business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs, get your pen and paper ready and tune in Sundays at 1 p.m. for Evolution Strategies, Business Sustainability and Growth Simplified. You must evolve to meet the challenges of today's marketplace. This is the only show in the Philly metro area that walks you step by step through success factors that make or break your brand. Want some free advice? Call in Sundays at 1 p.m. to talk to your host, Carolyn Lighty, and a panel of experts for Evolution Strategies, Business Sustainability and Growth Simplified.
Good day and welcome to this edition of Evolution Strategies. I'm your host, Carolyn Lighty, and today I'm so excited to have two wonderful people in the studio with me. I just found out that her husband's actually going to be joining the conversation because he is also someone that has a lot to share as it relates to our subject today. The journey into entrepreneurship takes many different paths and begins at different places for each of us. I've found that the most fulfilled entrepreneurs that I've met personally are those that seem to make the choice to make a difference rather than to make money. And those people that make that important choice are those that are more successful, I think, because they really have a true desire to impact the lives of other people. Joining me today to discuss her journey into entrepreneurship and to finding the divine spirit within is Angela Jo Manieri. Welcome to the show, Angela.
Thank you.
And also joining us is her husband, Paul Manieri, who is also a coach, and I'm so excited to find that out as we were talking before we went on air. So you guys had a little trouble finding the place, yeah?
Just a little bit, but we got here.
But it's a beautiful day, isn't it?
It is. It's gorgeous and a perfect day for being Easter.
And it's a perfect subject for us to talk about, finding one's purpose. And you have an interesting story. I met you at 1 Million Cups, I guess this past week, and you gave a fantastic proposal for other folks in terms of what they should do with their lives. I say a proposal only because you kind of challenge them to think about their purpose and then act on that and follow the steps that would lead them hopefully in the right direction to helping other people. And your own purpose, you discovered that. It took a little journey for you to get there, but I'd like you to tell everyone a little bit about who you are and then a little bit about your journey.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carolyn, and thanks for having me here and my husband, Paul. Yeah. Well, I grew up on a small farm in southern Jersey and pretty much worked there until I got married at a young age, around 18, and I'm the proud mother of 3 grown sons now. The youngest will be 30 this year. I can't believe it.
No way. I'm looking at you. There's no way. I'm looking right at you.
And his name is Frankie, and then Nicholas is 33, and Joseph just turned 35. And they are all wonderful sons and happily married to 3 amazing women.
Wow.
And we are blessed to have 3 grandbabies now and 1 on the way in July.
This is great.
I know.
What a
very
blessing.
exciting. Yes, true blessings.
Yes, absolutely. So you grew up on a farm. What was that like, and how did that prepare you for where you are today?
Well, I think, it's funny you should say that or ask that question, because I think now as I'm getting older, those roots of who how I grew up, no pun intended, roots being on a farm, but growing up really gave me that foundation, as everyone does, when you really go back to who you are and think about how you grew up. And I was born and raised Catholic and always had a love for God, and just I think growing up on a farm too gave you an opportunity to be one with nature too.
That's
looking
right.
back on it now, when I had to pick tomatoes or pick asparagus and peppers, I might not have been thinking that way.
Getting up at the crack of dawn.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. You were probably not necessarily as pleased with it and that's how we are when we grow up anyway. The things that our parents try to do with us, the things that we say, when I have my own children, I'm never going to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we end up doing the same thing, don't we?
That's so true. That's so true. And then, but it really gave me my work ethic, during the time when my friends would be at the beach in the summer and I had to work on the farm, it might have been a little bit of resentment there, but now looking back, I know that path led me to who I am right now.
Paul, where did you grow up? Did you grow up on the farm also?
No, actually, I'm kind of an interesting match. We have the farmer's daughter and the butcher's son.
Okay.
I grew up in little South Philly.
Story.
Yeah, and my grandparents came off the boat and had a little butcher shop in South Philadelphia, and a lot of kids, so they became part of the family business, and That's how I kind of grew up with a strong blue-collar work ethic.
It's the same thing, though, it's that work ethic, and I think about us today. I know that with me, and I admit it, I spoiled my children. And then it became really difficult to, first to understand, you see your mom is driven to succeed. Your mom helps other people. Your mom does all these other things. You just thought somehow that would kind of rub off on them. But in the meantime, I spoiled them, Instead of the tooth fairy bringing them a quarter or 50 cents, he or she brought video games, so they're just spoiling them with things and not insisting that they work a little harder towards. So I think that now I'm paying the price for some of that because they are still kind of like, I'm like, will you ever volunteer? Like I did, go to soup kitchens and things like that, trying to get them to understand the importance of giving. And they would do it while I made them do it, but it's not necessarily something that they would choose today. So I think there is a big difference in how we're raising our children today, and even in my generation, that where I wanted to give them more, and maybe giving sometimes was not the right thing to do.
That's really a good point, because what I've learned over the past years is that I want to be blessed to be a blessing. And when we have a heart that's a giving heart, that's what makes it more it blesses us beyond what we can imagine monetarily, to be able to give to others.
So how do you find your purpose? How did you find yours?
Oh, geez. I just think it is a real journey. I think we're all looking to get to that place, to arrive. And it was funny, Paul and I recently were talking to someone in when we were we recently got married almost 4 years ago, and we were going through marriage counseling. Thank you.
That is wonderful.
And the counselor had said something about me being a destination person and him being a journey person. And I was like, excuse me? I kind of took offense to it at first, thinking, no, I'm a journey person. I love the journey. But as I'm on the journey, I'm always thinking about the destination, getting there.
And can I get there already?
Exactly.
Kind of I got you.
Yeah, and I think women more so too, we want to get there. We want to, just get there as soon as we can, and then the what's next.
Yeah.
And I think with, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about my book, I think in the process of really listening to what God wants in my life, and each of the listeners here to really listen, to take the time to see and to know where is God calling you? What does He want for you? And I think with the busyness of how life is, we become more human doings than human beings. And we are designed to be and to really be in touch with God's calling in our life and what He He has a purpose for each of us. And until we become still and really ask Him to reveal that, it's going to be that onward, that struggle, I would say, a little bit of a struggle, So finally, when I think I was more obedient and finally listened, and again, I'm not there, I haven't arrived, but I'm really feeling like I'm more walking in my purpose to what He's calling me to be. And that was just a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, and it happens at different times in everyone's life. It may happen for someone, in one situation where they're, 17, 18 years old. I don't think there's anything chronological about when that particular effect takes place in your own life. You could be 70 years old before you really figure it out.
True.
And a lot of it has to do with us getting in our own way a lot of times. As
Absolutely.
You said, be still, you listened. A lot of times we don't listen. And I know that there's been times in my life when everything's going great, and I am listening, and I'm talking to God, and everyone has a different, however you look at that higher being or that energy, whatever it is that helps lead you in the right direction, whether you call it God or what you call it, that really doesn't matter. It just matters that you recognize it and then begin to follow that path. And when you don't follow it, things happen. Things let you know that you're not following the path, but we ignore that. We make excuses for it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's when you're saying that too, on the path, and we're just, if you put your hands in front of you and think of that line, is it a straight line, or is it like all these detours and winding paths around to get to where you really are called to be?
Exactly. Paul, what would you say about that in terms of following your path and knowing that you're really in the right lane, as you're going down?
I think as a coach, we offer guardrails for people to stay on the path once they've identified or become aligned with who they are. I think God is always shaping us to be the people that He wants us to be in the kingdom. And for me, I remember working as a consultant and helping business owners find their way with their employees. And what I realized was, after we would bring in consulting services, that there was a culture there that still was conditioned by society to perform a certain way. So they may not have been along the path. So that's when I sought out coaching, to see how those questions, those strategic questions like Angela asks in her book, about helping people identify with who they are, who God created them to be, and then where their gifts can be fulfilling as they use them in community.
That's really interesting. So how do you identify some of those gifts, since you mentioned your book? And we'll talk in detail about the book.
Well, I think we all have gifts inside of us. And I think when we're working in our gifts, that's when things become effortless. Sometimes when we're trying to be like somebody else, or we're thinking we need to do something a certain way, and we struggle, we hit those speed bumps, so to say, or the roadblocks even. That when we're aligned with what we're called to do, it becomes easier.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. What inspired you to write? Before I go to that, let me ask about, you had a miracle in your life.
Oh, yes.
Let's go there, because I wonder how often. Today is a day of miracles, right? We celebrate the miracle, right?
Yes.
So, or I'm going to call it the ultimate miracle, or what have you.
Absolutely.
What was the miracle that happened in your life?
Oh, I'm glad you asked me that.
Yeah.
Well, it was, gosh, I even forget the year, but it was, I think in 97, maybe. No. It was a while ago. It was probably over 25 years ago. I was having some trouble with my eyes, and it was twitching a lot, but it wasn't that twitching that it was just a little bothersome. It was constant. The whole weekend it was just twitching like crazy. And it was around the holidays. It was around Christmas, and I remember waking up, and we were going to go Christmas shopping, and I was getting ready, and I looked in the mirror, and my eye was kind of just standing still a little bit, but not like really noticeable yet, but my mouth looked a little weird too. So we went shopping, and as the day went on, my sister-in-law at the time was with me, and she looked at me, and she just said, "Talk to me." And she could say something, and I said, "What?" She goes, "Your mouth isn't moving." And I said, "What?" Wow. So we went into the store, and I looked, and my eye was totally, like, it was opened. It wasn't closed. It wasn't blinking. Wow. Yes, and my mouth had stopped moving. You're making me rub my eye now. Yeah. Well, we went home immediately, and I found a doctor to go to, and I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy, which I had never heard of before. So I'm thinking I'm having a stroke, which is a little.
Which would be the normal thing you might think of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a mini stroke.
Is it? Okay.
But so here it was, as the days progressed, it was getting worse and worse, and I had to actually put something in my eye at night before I went to get bed, some lubricant, and put a patch over it, because I could have lost my eye, because it, when you blink, it causes the moisture, so if it wasn't blinking. So my pastor at the time asked me, he said, "Well, how about if we anoint you?" And being raised Catholic, I was just like, the anointing, that's your last, that's the last straw, right? Yeah. That's the last right. So I was just like, why? Did my doctor call you? Is something going on here? And he said, no. He said, it's just anointing of the sick. And, well, I resisted, because I guess it's fear. When we resist something, it comes from fear. So finally we had, I was pretty active in our church. And after it was a couple weeks, and I was going through therapy, and honestly, it wasn't getting any better. And it was about almost 3 weeks into it, and I was at church for a meeting, and a bunch of my friends that were in our small Christian community, like a sharing group, were there, and he said, "Why don't we do this now?" So I can't even tell you, Carolyn, it was such a beautiful experience, because we went into the church, all the lights were out except around the altar, and we sat in a circle, and he anointed my eye, my cheek, and my mouth. And everyone else around me did the same thing, and I was sobbing. I mean, really sobbing. And the next morning I woke up, I'm chilled even saying it right now.
Absolutely.
And it was gone. It was healed.
Amazing. Bless God. Blessings, blessings from
Yes.
God. And miracles like that do happen, and a lot of folks don't. I don't know, as we were coming up in the elevator, people that don't believe, you wonder what do they do in these circumstances? You know, who do they rely on?
Exactly.
You know, and it's not about self. You can't rely on just yourself. So you need some other power to do something like that. Those types of miracles don't happen just by going, walking out and bumping into a stranger.
Absolutely.
Or by your own will even. It has to have everyone else collectively working together.
And it's interesting when you said the word self, because that's what I was thinking of. As we grow in our spiritual walk, what I'm learning is that as we kind of deny ourselves or kind of like die to ourselves, we actually open up our lives to that greater power. For me, it's Jesus and the Lord, and opening up ourselves to that. And even in church this morning, the pastor said, which was such a great visual, when we open up our hands, it's like a funnel, allowing God's love just to come into us. And I'm like, wow, that's a
so
powerful visual.
That is fantastic. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about your book and how we can help other people find their purpose and then walk in the path that they were destined for.
Okay, great.
Okay.
You can't. Do those magic words motivate you? Has anyone ever told you that you can't? You can't be an entrepreneur. You can't be a business owner. You don't have what it takes. How many successful businesses started without incorporating? I'm John Williams, the president of Inc. Now. For 39 years, Inc. Now has been incorporating first-time entrepreneurs just like you. Over 15,000 companies, from mom and pop businesses to worldwide enterprises. IncNow.com, based in Delaware, can have you incorporated in only a few minutes for $298. Inc. Now makes starting your LLC easy. Learn more about what Inc. Now can do for you. On the web, visit incnow.com. That's incnow.com. What do you have to lose? If you think you can't be an entrepreneur, then don't. I'm here to tell you, you can. Plant a seed. Inc. Now. Dreamers wanted.
Welcome to Wilmington, Delaware. At Preservation Initiatives, we bring beautiful lofts to you. The recently renovated lofts at 400 Market Street are a must-see. A part of registered National Historic District. Featuring spacious floor plans, custom glass windows, solid surface countertops, stainless steel appliances, custom lighting, wood flooring, large closets, pocket doors, sunny interiors, high ceilings plus beautifully detailed trim molding. Enjoy the sights, sounds, and tastes of Market Street. Just a short walk from the Wilmington riverfront, featuring family-friendly places to enjoy, with plenty of restaurants, entertainment, and other small-town conveniences. Wilmington, Delaware, in the middle of it all. Reserve today. Preservation Initiatives. Urban revitalization through historic preservation.
Preservation Initiatives is a wonderful, wonderful gem that we have here in the city of Wilmington. Don McGinley, its founder, has been developing historic properties since 1979. He's had properties in Boston, Miami, Philly, and now Wilmington. If you want to contact Preservation Initiatives in reference to any of the residential or commercial properties, please call them at 302-543-7565. That's 302-543-7565.
You're listening to WFAI 1510 AM. Welcome back to this week's edition of Evolution Strategies, Business Sustainability and Growth Simplified. If you're just joining us, get your pen and paper ready for more free advice from Carolyn Lighty and her guests.
Well, welcome back. I'm Carolyn Lighty, your host. This is Evolution Strategies, a special show for this Resurrection or Easter Sunday. I'm here sitting with Angela Jo Manieri and also her husband, Paul, and we're talking about the journey into entrepreneurship, finding your purpose. And Angela Jo, you have a fantastic book that you talked about when I first met you at 1 Million Cups. I'd like to talk about, how that came about, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, sure, Carolyn. Well, it was in 2003, a friend of mine, Mickey, in Massachusetts, she and I decided that we were going to launch our own gift company, and it was called Dreambox Gifts. Mm-hmm. And two single moms, and we actually put our homes up for collateral to launch the company, took out a huge loan, but just went out and stepped out in faith. Mm-hmm. And the company was offering, we offered a collection of inspirational gifts that would inspire women, made by women for women in the United States. Mm-hmm. Well, it was during the launching of the company that I was driving one day, and all of a sudden, in my spirit, I just had this little nudge that, we sometimes get, and I heard your AM wake-up call. And I'm like, your AM wake-up call, what could that possibly be? Well, it hit me, I'm Angela A, and Mickey was M, and I thought, well, maybe we're supposed to, in addition to the gift company, do some kind of a talk show or speaking of some sort and be the AM wake-up call. Well, putting all our time and money into the business, that never happened. Mm-hmm. It was just too much going on. And again, I guess it wasn't meant to be. Well, a couple years later, the company, I always say that the Dreambox Gifts became a nonprofit, unbeknownst to us, but it was still successful because we're still great friends, and actually she's coming to visit this week, which is appropriate.
Very nice.
And we really inspired a lot of people through the company and the messages. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, 2009, I was introduced to, I had been single for 15 years, and I was introduced to my husband, Paul, and so there are opportunities.
There's still a chance.
Yeah, for second chances. And
still a chance.
Within, I guess it was a year and a few months, we got married. And I think as most women, we tend to, when we're dating somebody, we put their names with our name, their last name with our name. And it hit me, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to now be Angela Jo Manieri. So I went from the letter C to M, and I said, oh my gosh, could it be? This is it, AM. Mm-hmm. It's your AM wake-up call. Well, we got married, and nothing was happening. I'm like, well, what is this supposed to be? So still, but when you know that you had that something in your heart, and I heard it so loudly. Well, one day I was driving home, actually from a church meeting, and I had a CD in the that I was listening to, and it was from Joyce Meyer. Mm-hmm. And I love her. I listen to her every day. And this CD happened to be on Jesus being our ultimate healer and comforter. Mm-hmm. So she was referencing, and I had heard it often. Sometimes, we all need a wake-up call. Yes. We hear things over and over again, and sometimes it just hits us at different times.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I'm driving, and I heard her say, where she was talking about a book in the Bible, Exodus, where Moses was with God, and he said, well, when I go back to my people and I tell them about you, who am I supposed to say sent me? And God, in his divine way, said, tell them I am that I am has sent you.
Right.
And again, I have a high chill factor. I got chills, and I literally drove off to the side of the road, and I thought, this is it. It's not your AM wake-up call. It wasn't about Angela and Mickey. It's not about Angela now being Angela Manieri.
Right.
It's your I am wake-up call. It's connecting to the divine spirit within us that each of us has.
And we all need a wake-up call.
Yes,
actually.
Yes.
We really do.
It really hit me that now I knew that the title was going to be your I Am Wake-Up Call. I didn't know it was going to be a book, though. I still wasn't sure of where this journey was going to take me, but I knew that it was going to be your I Am Wake-Up Call.
Very interesting. And so when you think about that, and you think about the journey to get to that point, this didn't happen, on Monday you were AM Angela and Mickey, and then on Tuesday you were Angela Manieri. It took some time.
Yes.
During that time, what do you think you were going through in terms of your walk and on that journey? Do you think there was some education, there was something in that process that you had to go through before you actually got to I Am?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's true with all of us. We're all on that journey, and we just really need to be more open to what the possibilities are. And I think my spiritual walk is what really grew during that time. And I was like a sponge. I was a newer Christian, so to say. I recommitted my life to Christ in 2003. So it was during that time frame. But I guess I never knew that the struggles were going to be either as great or greater, and that we are going to be tested, but now I do know more about that, and that test, it's like we have our test, and then at the end we have our testimony, but in between, I've heard this said, that we have a lot of monies. That's right. So we have our test, we have our monies, and then we have our testimony.
I like that.
Yeah. And it was during that time, those, 7-8 years or more, that I was really being tested, and I want to say refined, and as we all are, again.
And redirected, I would almost guess, because as we talked about it earlier, a lot of times we hear, and we may even start out correctly, and then something pulls us to the right or the left, and that's where those monies start to happen, because we're not where we're supposed to be yet.
Exactly.
So we go through all of that, I think. And people get discouraged, though, when that happens. And I think that's the big difference between you and anyone else that's successful in helping others and still being able to make a living at it, is that they get discouraged. And then instead of learning from that and taking strength from whatever that challenge happens to be, they let it kill their desire, their drive, their determination. It's like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. And then maybe they pick something else and go, and they pick. Again, not necessarily the destiny, but they pick something else. And I don't think they realize even that they're doing it. So it takes a certain level, I think, of faith and spirituality, I think, to really understand and to listen and to hear.
Exactly. And really to rise above, I mean, it's so hard because we all go through so many challenges and struggles, but to actually find that joy in the journey, so to say, is what we're really destined to do. And it's really, it's a difficult thing to rise above.
So, well, that's fantastic. I mean, we could just talk about this forever. This is just really wonderful. Tell us about some of the things that you say in your book. I want to hear some of the devotionals and maybe kind of understand where they came from.
Oh, okay. Well, even before I share some of these, the neat thing is what happened is, again, like I said, I heard your I Am Wake Up Call, but I didn't know quite what it was going to be. And I thought about radio, and you never know what God's going to open for that. Or a TV show interviewing people to find out what their journey is and how it can impact others. Well, I was at a seminar with Terry Levine, who's a local coach and entrepreneur and just a wonderful woman. And she challenged everybody at this workshop to create something that could make themselves stand out, something that would brand them. So I said, okay, it's got to be something with your I Am Wake Up Call. What could it be? And again, once you make the decision, I really think the resources come to you.
Yes.
So it was July the 3rd, 2012, that I said, you know what? I'm going to start this as a book and see what happens. Well, Carolyn, once I started writing, it was just...
See? That's great.
It was just like the
floodgates, like a floodgate.
Yeah. Perfect word. A floodgate just came. And I thought, okay, what could it be? And I thought to myself, we do have all these wonderful gifts inside of us. So I just started going through different scriptures and writing down words like hope, strength, grace, comfort, gratitude, all those things that we have in our spirit, and started writing down scriptures. I probably wrote down around 50 or so. And then I would just pray on which ones were resonating. Well, then it hit me. Again, I was guided by the Holy Spirit, I feel,
Right.
that this was going to be a devotional, that it was going to be a 31-day devotional, that every day we could look at the affirmations of what God has put in our spirit that are alive in there. But it's up to us to really ask for His grace and to receive God, Jesus, into our hearts. I was thinking of it this morning. I thought it's almost like we have these seeds and they're already there. But if we open up our arms and our life to Christ, He waters them.
Yes.
And He lets them grow.
That's right.
And that's the beauty of becoming who you are and what you're called to be.
Absolutely.
So
That is so great.
so I guess I can start with day one, which is perfect. This is today I am hope. And this was taken from Isaiah 40:31. And it says, "But those who wait for the Lord, who expect, look for, and hope in Him, shall change and renew their strength and power. They shall lift their wings and mount up close to God, as eagles mount up to the sun. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint or become tired." So
That's fantastic.
then I have, so that if the listeners can kind of visualize it, there's a picture of an eagle flying into the sun on that page, and then on the opposite page is my reflection of what that means to me.
Good.
So if you
Let's
like,
hear
I can.
that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So hope, what a powerful little word. Just saying it aloud with purpose gives you a sense of it. I am hope sets the foundation for the pages ahead and for your journey. It's a reassurance and a knowing that when we place our hope in the Lord, our lives will be renewed with His strength and power. I always loved the following quote about hope and never realized it was from Scripture. "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when dreams come true, there is life and joy." And that's taken from Proverbs 13:12. Here's to having hope be the common thread throughout each of your days. May you soar like an eagle and allow God's love and His Spirit to lift you above all circumstances you encounter. And then I have a quote by Albert Einstein on this page for I Am Hope. "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow."
That's great. That's perfect. And I think it's very apropos that you start with hope. You know, I'm not sure where if faith or any of those things are in here,
Yes,
but I
they
would
are.
think that because once you have that seed of hope
Mm-hmm.
and that's being nurtured and you start walking in the right direction,
Yes.
then whatever day 2 is, I'm sure it's going to be I am forgiving. Wow.
I am forgiving.
That's
and
wonderful.
then it goes to
Yeah.
I am strength
Yes.
and I am kindness. But one
All
of
those things are great.
the neatest things that I'd like to share about this is as I was writing it, and I really wrote the premise of it, the majority of it in about 30 days.
Wow.
And then I thought, these are
You
words.
gave birth to it.
I
actually.
did. I started giving birth to it, yes. But then I knew in my heart that I love photography. I always have since I was a little girl. And I thought, how neat would it be? Because pictures really tell a story. So somebody might be attracted to a picture, somebody for scripture,
Right.
somebody for the words of the reflection, or for an inspirational quote. So I thought, how neat would it be to incorporate my photography?
Yes.
But then as I thought about it, I said, I would like to get this done sooner than later. If I wait to take pictures, I'm going to be 80 by the time I get done. Well, God showed up, and as He had it designed, I went through some of the pictures that I had taken in my travels and looked for the perfect picture for each page. And don't you know, I had already in my library of pictures every picture that's in the book.
Everything
So
provided. That's what He does.
it is.
That's what He does.
And a friend of mine says, and I love this quote, she says, when God shows up, He shows off.
Yes.
And that's what He did. And this is
there
His
you
book.
have it.
I don't really take, yes, I wrote it, but I really feel like He spoke to me,
amazing
it together.
inspiration. And the pictures help connect the emotion
Yes.
to the words that you have there.
Mhm.
Because sometimes if you're just reading it, everyone's going to get a different picture, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But you know what you intended or what God intended for you to display at this particular moment when you're talking about I am kind, you know, and that's why that picture was there. That's why you probably initially took the picture.
Yes, and who knew? And it's funny because as you're on kindness here, this picture that I took are the backs of these two ladies, these older ladies on the island of Capri in Italy. And I took this picture and it just always resonated with me. And to say now that it's in the book and it represents kindness, it's just fantastic. It's beautiful.
I like to have you give some information about how folks can get in touch with you, and then we're going to go back and talk a little bit about how when you do your workshops or you have your keynote address, also with you, Paul, because you've been like sitting here so patiently. But I'd like to get you in here and just kind of understand the coaching that goes on in the workplace and how you've actually then made this into a business for yourself. Okay. So let's first take a quick break, and then I'll have you come back. Give us some contact information now first, and then we'll break.
All right. My website is simply you could just go to www.angelajo.com, and it's ANGELAJO.com. And my email is iam@angelajo.com. So it's iam@angelajo.com.
Very good. Okay, and we'll be right back to talk more with Angela Jo and Paul after this message.
You can't. Do those magic words motivate you? Has anyone ever told you that you can't? You can't be an entrepreneur. You can't be a business owner. You don't have what it takes. How many successful businesses started without incorporating? I'm John Williams, the president of Inc. Now. For 39 years, Inc. Now has been incorporating first-time entrepreneurs just like you. Over 15,000 companies, from mom and pop businesses to worldwide enterprises. IncNow.com, based in Delaware, can have you incorporated in only a few minutes for $298. Inc. Now makes starting your LLC easy. Learn more about what Inc. Now can do for you. On the web, visit incnow.com. That's incnow.com. What do you have to lose? If you think you can't be an entrepreneur, then don't. I'm here to tell you, you can. Plant a seed. Inc. Now. Dreamers wanted.
Welcome to Wilmington, Delaware. At Preservation Initiatives, we bring beautiful lofts to you. The recently renovated lofts at 400 Market Street are a must-see. A part of Registered National Historic District. Featuring spacious floor plans, custom glass windows, solid surface countertops, stainless steel appliances, custom lighting, wood flooring, large closets, pocket doors, sunny interiors, high ceilings plus beautifully detailed trim molding. Enjoy the sights, sounds, and tastes of Market Street. Just a short walk from the Wilmington riverfront, featuring family-friendly places to enjoy, with plenty of restaurants, entertainment, and other small-town conveniences. Wilmington, Delaware, in the middle of it all. Reserve today. Preservation Initiatives, urban revitalization through historic preservation.
Preservation Initiatives is a wonderful, wonderful gem that we have here in the city of Wilmington. Don McGinley, its founder, has been developing historic properties since 1979. He's had properties in Boston, Miami, Philly, and now Wilmington. If you want to contact Preservation Initiatives in reference to any of the residential or commercial properties, please call them at 302-543-7565. That's 302-543-7565.
You're listening to WFAI 1510 AM. Welcome back to this week's edition of Evolution Strategies, Business Sustainability and Growth Simplified. If you're just joining us, get your pen and paper ready for more free advice from Carolyn Lighty and her guests.
Well, welcome back to the show. We're having a fantastic conversation with Angela Jo Manieri. She's an author. We just talked a little bit about her book, and she's she delivers keynote speeches at various types of events. She performs workshops. She's a mentor and coach. Her husband Paul is also with us today, and he's also a business coach. So we're going to get into that particular realm of this discussion, because I think as we talk to business owners about how to pursue their dream of owning a business, it becomes increasingly important of understanding that you can help others, and that whatever, even your product or service, needs to have that vein running through it. How is it going to help someone else? Not how is it going to make me a lot of money? Would you agree on
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you have these presentations in a corporate environment, what are they usually looking for? If they hire you, what is the problem, I guess, they're trying to fix by having someone like you come in?
Well, I think actually the speaking business portion of my business really is just new. It's launched just last year. Okay. So I'm really, and thank you for having me today, because it really is getting my name out there. Mm-hmm. But as far as I customize, I really like to customize according to what the needs are of an organization. For instance, I spoke at Bank of America recently in the fall, and I did a presentation around one team and building more like about huddle and what the benefits we get from huddling together. So I love being able to go into an organization, finding out a little bit about them, what makes them tick, what their needs are, and then customizing something, a message that would speak to the audience. So that's more in the corporate realm. And
that's a good example, because team building is a big thing that a lot of corporations they try to do. I don't know if they do it as effectively. I don't know if it's long term in terms of how long it lasts after they've gone through one of these sessions. But I have worked with very large companies that have done it. I've worked with smaller companies that have tried to do it. And I think for the time that you're actually doing it, it's the employees enjoy it, and usually there's some games involved with it. Sometimes they get to see their manager or whomever, the president of the company, kind of let his hair down. So that's always good as well. But as far as the huddle, I think that's very important, because especially in the sales environment, you have your little team huddles in the morning before you go out in the field or whatever. And how does your conversation with them how does that look? What are you trying to get them to realize?
Well, with that one in particular, it was just that everybody brings different gifts again to the table, to the group, to the team, and by respecting that and actually recognizing each person's gifts, then you can work so much better collectively and collaboratively as a group, and then the end result is so much better.
Yeah. Higher productivity, increased revenue if that's what the company's going for, higher sense of self and the importance of who I am in the company and how I fit.
Exactly.
Those things make a big difference. Yeah.
Exactly.
Paul, when you're consulting with small businesses and there's a culture issue, talk to me about if you're seeing any trends over the last, since we've had a pretty tough economy. Have you seen some trends as it relates to how corporate culture is affected by that?
Well, I mostly work with small business owners, but I think the same pattern runs through all of business right now, and that is that whoever's around now survived one of the toughest grand recessions we've ever seen in American history. And so if you survived it, do you still have anything left in the tank to take it to grow the company? And I think with a lot of businesses, there's been that change. So that's why the culture is constantly changing. So what is important to teach or to help people embrace, and that's what I think is so good about the I Am Wake Up Call, is that change is constant. And when we can look at each other with respect and look to find the strength in each person, then we can identify with a strength to build upon. What we just came through in our history is made us stronger. And what has happened to people that have changed the direction of where their business was or their life purpose is because they gave up on their dream, or they realized there was a better way and they decided to go that way. So we're here to encourage people. I think corporations are there for their people, to encourage them. At the same time, I think it's foolish for us to think that the head of corporations really care about employees.
And that's the biggest complaint I hear. Yeah. They don't care about me. I'm just a number.
Exactly. And that's when we have to look at ourselves and say, do I matter? And affirm and take responsibility for the things that we're doing to improve the lifestyle of not just the community, but to give to the corporation that's going to give to the community, which therefore hopefully provides more jobs. And I think in Wilmington, we've seen that in some ways with the Half and 10 Project, reducing poverty and looking to increase a prosperity mindset.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And it seems disheartening when folks feel that they're almost demoralized at that point. They become less than, and they kind of fit into that rut and don't realize how much they do have. Their gifts are then smothered. I don't even know what other word to use for it, but it's kind of suppressed. Yeah. And they don't seem to have hope for a better existence or a better life for themselves. And then, and everything is catching. Positive can be something that's catching, or it could be negative and it's catching.
Exactly.
So,
And I think that's one of the messages that is just dear to my heart is it's called Think on Purpose. And it's when we rise to the top, we think on purpose, and TOP stands for Think on Purpose. I love acronyms. I always have. And but it does. I think it's not just a cutesy thing. It really gets people to recall things in a great way. It's an anchor for them. And the training that I've been doing more of and speaking on is about that. And just like you're saying, what we think about, we bring about. So if we focus on all the negativity and the poverty and everything that's out there that is negative, we're going to bring about more of that. Where if we focus on, and I like to call it your I am movement, so to say, and taking that I am journey within to say, these gifts God has put there in our spirit for a reason. And if we allow Him to water them and for us to grow in them, not only do we then see them and grow ourselves spiritually, but then we can, like Paul just said, look at those gifts in other people and say, wow, that person is a wonderful person too. And we connect to that person, and it builds a better world. I know it's a little cliche in saying that just from something like this, so small, that, it can make a difference.
But it begins small. It gets bigger as more and more folks embrace it. And an I am movement, I just love that terminology. I mean, my listening audience, if you want to become part of the I Am movement, I think that you need to get in touch with Angela right away. Angela, give your website information again.
Okay, it's www.angelajo.com, ANGELAJO.com, and my email is IAM@angelajo.com.
Some of the things that you're talking about, especially Think on Purpose, is something that I think we need to even begin at the child stage. I don't know, elementary, preschool even. I think that if we start there, a lot of times, we're trying to come from the top down when we're dealing with, old dogs who may not be ready to learn new tricks.
It's so true.
If that whole Think on Purpose movement also went into our education system, or in our parenting classes, where we can then help the parents understand also how this would affect their children. I think that would be another way to bring about this movement.
Absolutely. It does. We were just talking about this on the way here about our grandchildren, and just, they're so impressionable and just little human beings, and just how impactful everything you say to them. They learn what you do.
It's like they eat it up. It's just like a sponge.
There's so much stimuli out there. There's so much media. And to help make sure that they get the right information and the right visual stimulation, the right audio stimulation, so that they're encouraged to believe and to thrive in our community. You talked about culture and change and thinking on purpose. Anyone that is effective and certified as a coach knows that when we affect change, we do three things. One, we change the physiology of the people that are involved. We get them to move, which is one of the reasons why I Am movement is so important. Number two is you start to think about what you're thinking about, and Angela does that in her seminar.
Think about what you're thinking about.
Exactly.
I like that.
And then affirm those thoughts that do empower you, that do encourage you. And that flows over into your beliefs. And then that belief overflows into the collective so that you can make a more significant impact, true change, positive change. Because the one thing that we know is motivation doesn't always work.
Right.
You can motivate an idiot, but then you just have a motivated idiot. We want to take positive things.
That's good.
And that's what we see here in your I Am Wake Up Call.
Being more transformation versus just inspiration, because inspiration doesn't last, but transformation does.
That's another one. Say that again.
Inspiration doesn't last, transformation does.
That's great.
That's right.
So how do I deal with the negativity that is going to come my way? I've gone through this process. I'm trying to transform my life and my thinking and be much more critical and objective at the same time about where I'm going, you know, because I need to be open, but I also have to make sure that I'm not trying to do everything. So I have to be more specific in the direction. I have to hear, I have to listen, and then I have to follow. But then something's going to become an obstacle. What do I do?
I would say the thing that came to me when you were asking that question was not to ask, you know, why me? You know, it's not what about me? What am I, what's happening? Why is this happening to me? It's more about, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Then
I say that all the time.
We take the lesson and we become, you know, we become better. It's, I love the better bitter analogy, you know, and when something happens to us, are we letting it, you know, like it's like sandpaper, are we letting it shape us into becoming better? Or are we allowing it to just keep dwelling and making us more bitter? And it really is about allowing God to shape us into becoming all that He has called us to be.
That is so true. And you used a phrase that I use all the time. When something comes my way that isn't along the lines of, I will say it's a little negative or some kind of obstacle, I'll say, okay, I see it. What am I supposed to learn from this? Like I'm always looking for what is this teaching me, or is it supposed to be teaching me? Because even in the negative, I always find that there is a reason for it. Is it something that I did to cause it? Is it an outside influence that maybe I don't need to have in my life, in my circle, in my, you know, in terms of influencing the outcome of where I'm going? You know, are they pulling away from what it is I'm doing? I always talk about, at one point in my life, I had a lot of takers, where I was giving, but and they were willing to take.
Yes.
And I started saying, wait a minute, I got to let some of those go, you know. And I did that, and then things that seemed like all of a sudden I got back on track again.
And you were able to receive.
Yes.
Because you attracted givers that wanted to bless you.
That's exactly what happened.
And that's how we bless each other.
That's exactly what happened.
I think in your question earlier about, you know, how do we know? I think what Angela's tag name really is inspiration, authenticity, and mindfulness. And so when we do see something that comes into our radar, so to speak, and we wonder whether it's a negative or a positive, and we think about, we honor what it is, we feel what we're feeling, and whether we give it a label of positive or negative, we respect it, and then we can move forward authentically because we're mindful that there's going to be light and there's going to be darkness, and there can't be one without the other.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And to your point too, to just piggyback on that, we know in life it's not going to be easy. We know that there's going to be struggles and disappointments, but sometimes the disappointments are disguised as reappointments for something greater.
Yep.
You said that at the event also. I remembered that. I tried to write down all you have great, I don't know if you want to call them phrases or, but they're little enough that you should be able to remember. And maybe that's another book.
In the meantime, there may be something brewing. That is the second book.
Oh, there you go.
And it's interesting. Angela, so she says she's launching her speaking business, but she's been speaking for like 3 decades. And I laugh sometimes when one of her sons says, "Yeah, my mom gets paid to talk."
That's great, and you do it very well, and you don't just talk, but it's real. It's real. You can sense how genuine you are.
Thank you.
And your travel and wanting to share the journey that you've been on with others, so that they understand that they too have a journey to go on, and it's not going to be easy. But affirm. Continue to affirm. Have that faith. And you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Tell folks how they can get your book.
Okay, well, it is on Amazon.
Okay.
And really on my website too. They can just go into the shopping cart and order it there too. It's you can go to angelajo.com or your IamWakeUpCall.com. And I do want to say too that I've connected with IJM Ministries, which is International Justice Missions. And
oh yes, I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, and basically again, God puts these little nudges in our hearts, or just tugs at our heart, and I was just really concerned about the just the tragedy of human trafficking. And honestly, up until a few years ago, I didn't realize how prevalent it was, you know, in the United States as well as internationally. But, you know, I researched a couple different companies and organizations, and I came across International Justice Mission. So basically $3 from every book sold goes to that organization to help create awareness and to help stop, hopefully, eventually, human trafficking. And they're doing an amazing job.
And there are certain states, and I think you said that they're out of Atlanta?
Or they're actually in D.C.
Oh, they're in D.C. Okay.
But they do have chapters,
in different places. Yeah, because Atlanta is one of the biggest
hub, biggest hub for that.
Unfortunately, it's terrible. I'm not even sure why Atlanta, but it is. I've read statistics on that, and it's just frightening to see people just disappear, young people just disappearing, and no one, you know.
And you think about it, like I wondered why I was being called to partner with them, but if you think about it, it is, you know, if your soul is filled and your spirit is filled with goodness, you know, granted, some of the people that are taken, so to say, are just pulled away into it, and you know, just not because of anything that they get into, you know, but really, if you are walking in your purpose and you know that you know what you're called to be, you know, it's just like it's filling that desire of what God wants you to be, you know, and it's just so important. And that's why I love the fact of what they're doing and helping people even rebuild from what was taken from them, was taken from them.
Yeah,
well, this is fantastic. I think I want you guys to come back at some other point as well, but this is going to end our show for today anyway. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday, Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday. I say both together to make sure I'm covering everybody.
Yeah. You too, Carolyn.
We look forward. You can always reach me. My company is Evolve Brand Marketing. I'm at 302-300-1003. Let us help you make your business more successful, help to sustain you, and to help to bring these types of folks in to help your culture in your company.